Question: how much do we know about the ancient pyramids of Egypt? Answer: very little. That should concern us. They're the most famous ancient objects in the world, and the last of the 7 wonders of the world still in existence, but our knowledge of them is sorely lacking. That lack of knowledge disturbs scientists, and in this video, we're going to tell you why. Inside the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid of Giza is a stone coffer, which is sometimes referred to as a sarcophagus. Nobody knows why it's there. It's the only thing inside the chamber, and as far as we know, that's the way it's been for the past 4,500 years. It's made of granite, which isn't the same material the surrounding walls and floor are made from. It's a generally accepted theory that the stone was lowered into the chamber before it was enclosed, as the coffin wouldn't have fit through any of the passageways to get into the chamber, and doesn't seem to have been assembled in situ. That means the Egyptians went to an enormous amount of trouble to get it into the chamber, so it must have been very important to them. That's despite the fact that it never housed human remains and served no other obvious purpose. What's it doing here? Why is it the only thing inside the chamber? If it wasn't designed to house human remains, what was it designed for? These are all questions we don't have answers to. Speaking of the Great Pyramid of Giza, it seems to contain a lot of encoded mathematical information. The elevation of the pyramid contains encoded references to the 3 great constants of math: pi, phi, and e, especially in its slopes, which are angled at precisely 51.85 degrees. If you were to place an equilateral triangle inside the pyramid, its edge length would be precisely 555.5 feet, which is 6,666 inches. If you were to put a circle inside it, the circle would have a diameter of 365.242 feet. The Earth has a tropical year of 365.242 days. It's possible to go far deeper than this with cones, rectangles, squares, and smaller circles, and come up with other repeating numbers and strange coincidences, all of which ignore the fact that feet and inches weren't invented until thousands of years after the pyramids were built. Or were they? Did we forget this measurement system and then rediscover it? Or do a lot of mathematicians have far too much time on their hands? We'll let you decide that. But such geometric precision in something so ancient is surely more than a coincidence. It's said that anyone who disturbs the mummy of an ancient Egyptian, especially that of a pharaoh, will be cursed. This so-called curse of the pharaohs, or mummy's curse, has existed in folklore for thousands of years, dating back to the time of the ancient Egyptians themselves. Is there any truth to it? Well, we certainly know that the Egyptians tried to curse their tombs. There's a lengthy curse inscription on the mastaba of Khantekheh Ikeki of the 6th dynasty in the necropolis of Saqqara. The most famous of all the alleged curses is that of the tomb of Tutankhamun. The tomb was opened by Howard Carter in 1922, after which several members of his team suffered early and unnatural deaths. George Herbert died 4 months later after being bitten by a mosquito. A month after that, George Gay Gould developed a fever and died in the French Riviera. 5 years later, A.C. Mace died young of pneumonia. Carter's secretary, Captain Richard Bethel, died a year after Mace in his home in Mayfair, London. He appeared to have been suffocated in his sleep, but the police never solved the crime. Are these all coincidences? Who's to say? Speaking of curses, let's talk about the unlucky mummy. It's not really a mummy. It's the painted wooden mummy board of an unidentified woman, and it's been in the collection of the British Museum in London, England, since 1889. In real terms, it's a coffin lid, and it was found in Thebes. Experts say that it's around 2,900 years old. The quality of the lid and the symbols painted onto it confirm that the woman it was made for was of high rank, but it's strange that she isn't specifically named. There are too many myths and legends about the unlucky mummy to go into at length here, but it's been blamed for far more deaths and misfortunes than the tomb of Tutankhamun. The most famous of those deaths is that of Bertram Fletcher Robinson. He was tasked with researching the curse of the unlucky mummy in 1904 by his employers, the Daily Express, and in doing so, he became convinced of its dark and mysterious powers. As if to prove them right, he died of a mysterious fever 3 years later at the age of just 36. The Journal of Applied Physics isn't exactly known for printing sensationalist nonsense, so however unbelievable this next claim sounds, it's true. A team of scientists from Germany and Russia working in tandem published a study in 2018 that says the Great Pyramid of Giza is capable of concentrating electromagnetic energy under its base and inside its internal chambers. The team found that wavelengths between 200 and 600 meters induce resonance inside the pyramid, resulting in the ancient structure absorbing more energy from these electromagnetic waves than it would under normal conditions. The chances of the ancient Egyptians being aware of this effect or making it a deliberate feature of the pyramid's design are remote, but the chances of the effect occurring by random chance are just as remote. The scientists responsible for the study now hope that the results can be used in the design of the next generation of nanoparticles, which will in turn help us to create new kinds of solar cells and sensors. The incredible building skills of the ancient Egyptians are helping us to design the future. The mysteries of the pyramids extend to what lies beneath them. Some people believe there's a hidden network of tunnels below the world's most famous landmarks, and Egyptologist Andrew Collins believes he's seen them with his own eyes. Collins didn't venture far down the tunnels because he encountered white window spiders and colonies of bats, but wrote about his findings in a book called, appropriately enough, Beneath the Pyramids. Collins refers to the records of British Consul General Henry Salt, who wrote of investigating catacombs beneath Giza in 1817, accompanied by the famed Italian explorer Giovanni Caviglia. Collins retraced Salt's steps and found the entrance to those catacombs behind a crack in the rock, through which he claims he found an enormous natural cave. Is this the beginning of a whole new age of exploration in Giza as archaeologists dig out the tunnels? Not according to famed Egyptologist and archaeologist Dr. Zahi Hawass, who claims he already knows everything there is to know about the Giza Plateau, and there's nothing left there to find. There are many more pyramids in Egypt than the ones you'll find on the Giza Plateau, but there's also one that's conspicuous by its absence. The many ancient writings, myths, and legends of Egypt sometimes speak of a mysterious black pyramid. Some sources even say that this missing pyramid once stood with the three at Giza. The Danish explorer Frederik Louis Norden, who lived in the early 18th century, wrote that he saw direct evidence of the Black Pyramid when he visited Egypt in 1737 on behalf of King Christian VI. Norden was neither a fantasist nor a fool. He was a captain of the Navy and a talented cartographer as well as an explorer. The fourth pyramid appears in several of his drawings from the visit. It's smaller than the other four and is described as being made with a stone blacker than common granite. He further describes a single stone crowning to the top of the pyramid, serving as a pedestal. Obviously, there isn't a pyramid at the site today, nor any evidence that one existed. So what happened to it? What purpose would Norden have to lie? The pyramids are such complex creations that we occasionally have to remind ourselves that the people who built them were, according to historians, working with nothing more advanced than basic hand tools, some of which were made of copper or bronze, and weren't capable of cutting through hard stone. After reminding yourself of that fact, consider the swivel doors that once fit into the openings within the pyramid, one of which was discovered when the Great Pyramid was first explored by modern-age archaeologists. The door was so perfectly balanced that it could be opened from the inside with minimal effort, but was nearly impossible to open from the outside and weighed 20 tons. The level of precision engineering involved in creating such a door would be beyond modern-day experts. Yet, the ancient Egyptians were able to balance the weight and create the door 4,500 years ago. Either we're wrong about the tools they used, or they could do things with those tools that we can no longer comprehend. It seems likely that some of the knowledge that went into the building of the pyramids has been lost. Geopolymers are supposed to be an invention of the 1950s. We say supposed to be because the geopolymers of the 1950s weren't so much a discovery as they were a rediscovery. The ancient Egyptians knew about geopolymers, and they used them in the construction of the pyramids. There's an increasing acceptance that rather than dragging enormous blocks of stone to the pyramids, the pyramid builders poured concrete into wooden molds at the site of the pyramids and built them in situ. The French scientist Joseph Davidovits was the first to posit this theory in the 1980s, and believes the Egyptians would have been capable of making a type of geopolymer concrete from crushed limestone, lime, clay, water, and an unknown alkaline solution that would activate the crushed limestone and reconstitute it into stone. The idea of ancient concrete isn't as absurd as it sounds. The Romans were mass-producing concrete 2,000 years ago using similar methods. The unknown solution might have been natron salts, which would work as an activator for geopolymer. The Egyptians were aware of natron salts and used them in mummification. It all checks out. Isaac Newton died a very long time ago, but he was one of the greatest scientific minds of his era, and turned his intelligence to a whole load of important scientific matters other than the study of gravity. Among the many things he wrote about during the late 17th century were the Great Pyramids of Egypt. For reasons best known to himself, Newton thought that studying the pyramids could help him predict the time and date of the end of the world, and he wrote about his theories in a series of manuscripts that came to light in late 2020. The main topic of Newton's notes, which are fortunate to have survived at all after they were partially burned when his dog knocked over a candle, was the mysterious unit of measurement that the Egyptians used when putting the pyramids together. Newton was convinced that this unknown unit had divine properties, and that if he understood it, he would be able to calculate the precise circumference of the planet, and somehow the place where the beginning of the end of the world would begin. The notes are proof that even the smartest of people sometimes have bizarre ideas. As impressive as the pyramids look today, they looked far more impressive when they were first built. After standing exposed to the elements for over 4,000 years, their exterior surfaces are a little rough and lumpy. When they were first completed, they had stunningly shiny, glistening facades that would have made them appear almost as if they were made of glass. According to Jacqueline Williamson, an Egyptologist from Harvard University, the casing stones that make up the external facades of the pyramids were polished to a high degree, using abrasive materials like fine sand, sandstone, and even brick to produce a smooth finish. During the peak of the day, with the sun high in the sky, they would almost have seemed to glow. Williamson is 100% certain about her findings, and insists that the time, effort, and precision involved in the polishing process means that the quality of the craftspeople who worked on the pyramids was even greater than we've always imagined them to be. As for what happened to these shiny facades, they've naturally faded and crumbled over time. But some of the casing stones were removed long ago to be used in other building projects, thus accelerating the decline. Even the location of the Egyptian pyramids is significant and mysterious. These locations weren't chosen by chance. As we've already seen from the geometry of the structures, everything about their construction is clinically precise. For a start, they're all on the left bank of the Nile, towards the west. The west is associated with the world of the dead in ancient Egyptian mythology. It's been proposed that the 3 pyramids of the Giza Plateau were built in alignment with the stars of the Belt of Orion. It might not look that way now, but we have to remember that the stars in the night sky weren't in quite the same positions 4,500 years ago as they are now. Critics of the idea point out that not all of the pyramids were built or planned at the same time, but proponents point out That not being planned or built at the same time doesn't mean that the alignment couldn't have been planned from the moment the second pyramid was built. Furthermore, there's a lot of conjecture about when the pyramids were truly built. Some people even think the shafts inside the pyramids align with constellations as they appeared at the time and served as metaphorical stairways to heaven. Is it true? Well, you have eyes, so what do you think?
Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, and you will be the first to know when a new video comes out. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.